Today, Donald was supposed to be sentenced in New York City by Justice Juan Merchan months after having been convicted by a jury of his peers on 34 criminal counts. But because of a variety of factors, including the failures of the Republican Party and Merrick Garland's failures, and because of the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court, which has basically deemed Donald Trump to be above the law, instead of going to prison, the New York City trial, or instead of having been convicted for inciting an insurrection or for stealing classified government documents, Donald is heading back to the White House. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I was going to say welcome to this rather subdued version of the Nerd Avengers, but then Ringo Star joined us in a surprise.
I'm incognito in case the DOG comes after me.
All right, then. Well done. I never would have known it was you. But as you can see, it actually wasn't Ringo Starr. That's Brian Karem, White House reporter and best-selling author, as well as Tara Setmeyer, co-founder and CEO of the Seneca Project and resident scholar at UVA Center for Politics from 2024 to 2025. Well, my friends,
listen, this is how I'm dealing with it.
You know what, man? I am not averse.
Hey,
I sadly don't have my alcohol as a prop right now because it's in the other room.
I legit keep it on my desk for breaking in case of emergency. Shout out to Denver Riggleman's distillery, Silverback. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
I want to set this up. I don't know. I guess because look, we know the only way through this is to keep our eyes open. That's the only way through this. And I get it. People are exhausted and demoralized and upset and sad and depressed. I'm feeling, it's finally hitting me. I'm really, this whole Jack Smith thing and knowing that the sentencing was supposed to be today, but it was actually supposed to be in July, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I'm starting to feel it a little bit, but we're not doing ourselves or anybody else any good to hide under the bed. So I think the best thing we can do right now is continue to provide context. We cannot allow any of this to be memory hold at all. It is way too important what happened to us as a country, what Donald got away with. We can never ever allow that to be disappeared. And our friend and fellow Nerd Avenger Adam Parkomenko tweeted this today. Pretty crazy. Someone could be charged federally with interfering in an election, and those charges get dropped because they win an election. Right? That's where we are. So I want to back up a little bit and remind people it's not the only reason, but it's a very consequential reason for why we're here and why we need to be worried going forward. This is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson in her dissent to the illegitimate, corrupt supermajority of the Supreme Court's horrific and unconstitutional and anti-democratic and anti-American immunity ruling.
In your dissent, you wrote that the court declared for the first time in history that the most powerful official in the United States can, under circumstances yet to be fully determined, become a law unto himself. It sounds like a warning.
Well, I mean, that was my view of what the court determined.
You were concerned about broad immunity.
I was concerned about a system that appeared to provide immunity for one individual under one set of circumstances when we have a criminal justice system that had ordinarily treated everyone the same.
So Tara, we've seen the consequence. To drink. No drinking games here because we'll end up unconscious. But Tara, the dominoes have quickly fallen since then. And here we are, what's 50 something plus days before Donald Trump tragically is back in the White House.
It really has a feeling, and I think people have tweeted this or posted this in places like Rome, right? Gladiator just came out, and it's like, where are we? It feels like that, like we're heading down that road, because all of us who are not have not been ignoring how consequential Donald Trump getting back into office would be for reasons like this. Like, all the warning signs have been there, but unfortunately, the American people decided to tune all that out. We don't give a fuck. No. The price of eggs are too high. Donald Trump's going to make it better. And we don't trust the Black woman. Right. Is she even Black? I don't know. We don't trust her. We're going to go back to the dictator guy because he's promising he's going to make it all good for us. He did. It was wonderful under him before. Very Caligula. Like, it's all very alarming on so many levels, because there are lots of us. Now we see that even though he won the popular vote by such a slim margin, one of the slimmest in modern history, it's not a mandate that is overwhelming and record-breaking. That's all propaganda bullshit. But he also didn't win the majority, over 50%. And so lots of those people, and I've been saying this, I've been on air a lot since the election, basically saying, look, I don't think this is what the MAGAs, that's what they wanted. Because they're in the cult. But there's a good percentage of people who decided to give Donald Trump a chance again because they thought he's going to make things better. This is not what they were paying attention to at their own demise. We're all going to have to pay the price for it. But this is what they voted for. They didn't vote for, they thought they were voting for the price of eggs coming down. But no, actually what you voted for was this. Because if you don't know the importance of why keeping a constitutional republic / democracy is important, if you don't realize that, you're not going to fight to keep it. And there, unfortunately, are a lot of Americans who the constitutional democracy thing was too esoteric. They take it for granted. So they don't really know what they're losing. So why would they care? Why would they fight for it? Why would they care if the president has an authoritarian like immunity now to basically do whatever the hell they want, and that checks and balances aren't going to be the guardrails anymore? The average American doesn't feel the impact of that until they do. And the impact of that is going to be incredibly painful and incredibly consequential for average everyday Americans. But by that time, it's too late for them. So what do? Like you said, those of us who are trying to fight this good fight, we have to keep doing it and educating more people so that when it does happen, we can say, we told you so, and this is what we have to do to stop it, or at least make it more difficult for our country to become a full-fledged fascist country in the likes of Hungary or wherever else, because a lot of that stuff that they did to change their countries and make it more authoritarian and more oppressive was legal and under the guise of democracy. So we have to keep educating people, because unfortunately, a lot of the American people have no idea. And that's a failure on the part of the mainstream media for not covering the stakes instead of the horse race. And here we are.
Brian, before I want to get to you, but very quickly, everybody, I just want to let everybody know that we've hit over 200,000 subscribers. So thank you to everybody who subscribed. Please, if you have, everybody can like this video. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And don't forget to hit the bell. If you hit the bell, you'll get notified anytime new videos drop. So that's that for now. Brian, before I switch over to you, I want to
mouse in a cage thing. Ding ding, you get fed. Hit the bell.
It's Pavlovian.
Yeah,
yes,
that way more. Listen, that speaks to exactly what we're saying. Like, we're not screaming into the void. The more people who like and subscribe to your channel, to Seneca, to Brian's work, all of those things, it helps inform people so they can go and inform their friends and neighbors. because we have to fight this. And the only way to do it is with more informed people who understand what's at stake and explaining that to their friends and neighbors and family.
That's right. And rising tides lift all boats. And, our next goal, our immediate goal is 250. We want to get to 1 million by inauguration. But Brian, when
Yes.
I want you to follow up on what Tara had to say, but I want to show you this from our friend and fellow nerd Avenger, Norm Ornstein, in response to Mike Lee, who wrote on Twitter, all that has changed is that Donald won the election and now Jack Smith is moving to dismiss. Isn't that tantamount to an admission that this was just politicized lawfare, right? So they are trying to change the narrative. And of course, Norm, being brilliant and on the right side of history, wrote this. Even for you, Mike, this is pathetically dishonest. The Roberts Supreme Court gave Donald immunity. The longstanding Justice Department policy is you do not prosecute a sitting president. Smith moved to dismiss without prejudice, meaning the case can be brought again if and when he leaves, meaning Donald leaves the presidency. Delete your account and resign from public office and public life. You are just an embarrassment. Yes, indeed, Norm.
I love Norm.
I love Norm.
Everybody should.
But look, man, a lot to unpack. First of all, we're not going to get, I love what you said, Tara, but we're not going to get education in this country about what a democracy is. Take a look who's in charge of the Department of Education.
That's the reason, right? That's the point, right? They want to keep people ignorant.
Civics years ago, people don't even understand what the Constitution is about. As far as what Norm's saying, look, I've been saying this for months here on this show in several columns on MSNBC, CNN, whoever will listen. When the Supreme Court came out and ruled that the president has immunity for official acts, and only they can determine what those official acts
good luck figuring
are.
out what that means. Yeah, exactly.
That means we have no democracy. That is a star chamber, and the Supreme Court can hold the president hostage if they want, but be more than likely with this Supreme Court will do what like minds want them to do. Part of the Project 2025. Your democracy was over at that point in time, and your only chance to revive it was with the one candidate who said that she would introduce legislation that would limit the powers of the presidency. You chose not to do that because you worried about the price of tea in China, for the love of God. So, I mean, literally. And now, I love the fact that he wants to levy a 25%
tariff on Canada and Mexico.
By the way,
our main trading partners.
And China, and where most of his merch is made, is he going to be immune from that tariff?
But by the way, though, guys, that is in direct contravention of an order he signed.
Right. But nobody knows. Nobody cares, though. Nobody knows.
No, up is down, down is up. His minions are saying this is a negotiation strategy. Just sit back and relax. I have been down this freaking road before, and you're going to learn less, and he's going to do more of what he wants. Let me just real quickly tell you what's in store for you, the media consumers, once Donald Trump is back in office. Right now, there is no media press pool for transition. He won't have one. He's not negotiating with them. He will probably at least disrupt the seating arrangements in the White House press briefing room, which will be great for them.
Brian, that's a good point. I just think that for people who don't know how that works,
it's
good to explain that because it's important. Right? Normally you have like the mainstream press, right? All the same people. I think he's going to replace all of those people with the MAGA crazies and the right wing nuts.
He will move up like Newsmax from the back of the room to the front of the room. He'll move all the people in the first two rows to the back, and that will actually gain him some friends among the 250 people who cover the press who think that the Access Media Group and the main legacy media gets too much attention, and they do. But then he's going to stack that. They've already said, well, what does CBS need a seat in there for TV and radio? Get rid of one of those, move them to the back, bring in Newsmax, Epic Times, and put more Fox people in. He will stack that deck. Remember,
or the podcasters. I'm worried about him putting the Charlie Kirks and the
he has a 27-year-old press secretary in there, and she has about as much experience as at that podium as I do performing brain surgery. So yes, the podcasters will be there, the streamers will be there, the crazies that actually led to me having my press pass revoked last time when I asked them questions, those people will be there. And they will have, I would assume they'll limit the number of briefings that they have each week. Donald Trump will go on the Joe Rogan show once a week in a coach's show, or on Fox News for a half hour and drop in and talk to his buddies, and then hit the trail and go golfing. And the most interaction you'll have with Donald Trump will be as he's walking to the, and he loves chopper talk. He'll walk from the White House to this chopper and get on and leave and take about 10 questions in 5 minutes, smile and pretend like he's involved in the media. You're gonna know nothing about what's going on. They won't even issue guidance. They won't tell you what he's doing on a daily basis. They have no desire to. They spent an entire year last time he was in office not briefing us. That's where this is headed. So if you think that Donald Trump is there for you, just wait after the first 100 days and find out that he is bound by no laws. He doesn't give a crap what you think, and he's going to install the worst. As bad as I think it would be, I think it's actually going to be worse. And with that, happy Thanksgiving.
100%. Like, some of us did predict a Matt Gaetz or,
yes,
those kinds of people we used to say it and people would laugh at us. And we're like, this isn't funny. We're telling you, this is who he's surrounding himself with. He's telling us he wants to be I am your retribution, really talking about himself.
Revenge, yes. What
did they think he was going to do all of a sudden? Spontaneously turn into a good and decent leader? I just don't know what people were thinking. But, a lot of people rationalize things for their own, because Donald Trump gives people permission to be their worst selves. And so no one wants to take a look at themselves or take responsibility for their own lives, so they can project it all. And Donald Trump gives them license to do that. And the hell with everything else. And that's kind of where we are.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just think it's important to remember too, Brian, that because I want to get back to to other reasons the incoming administration's failure to sign these memoranda of understanding
for the transition
is so dangerous in the transition. But just in terms of who's going to be allowed access and coverage, et cetera. Remember that Donald met with Aiden Ross, a quote unquote influencer who's buddies with vile, toxic, criminal sex trafficking men like Andrew Tate, right? And that was because one of his sons recommended that he meet with this guy. So, there was a headline. I can't remember what publication it was, but basically the gist of it was, a toxic men for a toxic administration, or a government by toxic men for toxic men. And, that's really, and a lot of what we're seeing with his appointments and nominations are to kind of normalize the kind of dude bro toxicity, misogyny,
misconduct. I mean, the sex.
I give men a bad name.
Right. I mean, yeah. Right. Yeah.
It should shock all of us to our core, but
look, I'm old enough to remember that when Republican administrations disqualified people for not paying their nannies properly because there was a question whether they were here legally or not. That was disqualifying not that long ago.
Okay. I remember when Republicans not only wouldn't stand for it, but they actually impeached their own because of criminal activity. Remember that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but now Donald Trump can name multiple people who are credibly accused of sexual misconduct, and it's a shrug. This is craziness, but it flows from the head. He's not putting people there to reform. He's putting, from both heads. He's not putting people there to reform.
I love you, Tara.
It's the Jersey in me. I can't help it. He's putting people there to destroy.
Yeah.
And that is the point that, again, I don't think a large portion of the people who voted for Donald Trump, minus the MAGAs, fully understand. This is to destroy. It's to destroy everything. It's to destroy norms. It's to destroy character. It's to destroy integrity. It's to destroy truth. It's to destroy the day-to-day operations of how our government works in a representative democracy. because by doing that, it empowers the strong man. And then Donald Trump, I alone can fix it. He's told us everything he plans to do and why. And when I first learned this word, I stumbled over it badly on MSNBC the other day. But kakistocracy, that is what I didn't know this existed. And this I learned a new word. And kakistocracy, kakistocracy is legitimately what we're doing. It is the Greek meaning is governed by the worst people. Mm-hmm. The most unscrupulous, worst, most unqualified people running the government. Why do they do that? It's to destroy it so that the strong man can fix it or be the one that, runs
or pretend
everything.
Right. And this is the thing that's important to keep in mind. When Donald says fix, he doesn't mean repair. He means put in the fix so that the chaos is in service to keeping people
feudalism,
so disoriented and so make it so impossible to keep track of what's going on that it's going to make it easier for him and his cronies to plunder the treasury and get away with whatever they want. But then there's the other consequence to this stuff that they may not be thinking about, but that they also don't care about. And this is from a report. Elizabeth Warren says Donald's unprecedented actions during transition risk security. And that gets back to what I was saying before.
I'd love to see him as a female.
What?
That transition. I would love to see Donnie as a female.
Oh, God.
Okay. Anyway, let's pretend that didn't just happen.
Sorry.
Anyway, so
I couldn't help it.
try harder next time to help it. But anyway,
you always try the veal.
What I was saying is that earlier was that it is. One, it's just another norm that's being broken by not cooperating, by not signing transition documents, by not having your nominees and appointees go through FBI background checks, right? But I also want to remind people. So the problem is that it creates very serious potential for national security risks, right? We saw one of the things Senator Warren is talking about is what happened in 2001, because it wasn't anybody's doing. Like nobody was like on purpose delaying the transition. It was because it took so long for us to get the election results that created weakness in our national security apparatus and may indeed have led to many of the problems in the lead up to September 11th.
Yes.
But hold one more thing, okay, Brian, hang on. Remember, we didn't have a transition in 2020 either, because Donald wouldn't concede. He wouldn't give the incoming Biden administration access to anything they needed in order to put their administration in place. Biden was cooperating and doing what he could, but he was denied access to a lot of the government agencies that they needed to make a smooth transition, which again put us at risk in many ways. But remember what else was going on? That was during a global pandemic.
Yep.
So when the Biden administration got into office on January 20th, 2021, they were already at a, almost 3-month disadvantage. And here Donald is again doing it from the other side. And it's just this is the kind of shit people don't understand. And last thing I'll say before I hand off to you, Brian, is why weren't the Democrats planning for this for the last 4 years? I feel like Democrats have done absolutely nothing to codify things that have just in the past just been norms and traditions that Donald has proven time and time again he has no respect for and is completely willing to shatter. Where were the safeguards? Why was nothing put in place? Right.
Well, look, we have two parties in this country. One has no heart, one has no head. I've said it a million times before. The Democrats, no matter how far low the Republicans place the bar, the Democrats simply can't crawl over it. They're too damn busy eating their own and demanding all or nothing instead of trying to compromise and move forward as politics should be, the art of half a loaf. Everybody's forgotten the art of the half a loaf. The difference is the Republicans are far more vehement, far more militaristic, and far more engaged than the far left. So the far right, even though they're a minority in this country, there's a majority of people that tilt middle to the right? So they'll go, well, okay, let's give it to the right because I sure as hell don't want to give it to the left because they're crazy. And at the same time, don't expect this is Donald Trump, for the love of God. This guy held on to and lied about having classified documents. Norms, there are none. And he doesn't want these people. He'd rather have Fox News vet his people than have FBI vetting them. And in fact,
he doesn't want anybody vetted.
Yeah, everyone that he's yes, he doesn't want any vetting, but those that he's nominated, most of them were vetted by Fox News, which means no vetting. So what they've done is the FBI, do you want Tulsi Gabbard to go through that? Do you want Elon Musk to go through that? Do you want any of his Secretary of Defense or anyone else? You're finding out from the media, which is much maligned and in many cases, rightly so, for exposing some of this crap. And actually, if you really want to get down to it, the people exposing it are the Republicans who are giving their confidential notes to reporters and going, here, run with this. We don't want the SOB in either. But that you won't find out. And that's the true story. And I've had many sources from the Republicans reach out to me and go, this is crazy. He's not going to vet them. These people are nuts. What can you do about it? And so we try to point it out. But again, to your point, Mary, at the very beginning of the show, the fact remains that most people are simply not tuned into it. And the reason why is because they're tuned out. The Republicans have framed the argument and are scaring the living crap out of people. I made a joke, but transgender, how big an issue is that, really? Really, who cares where you go to the bathroom? But they've made a huge issue about that and scared people into believing that there are people sneaking into the bathrooms or that there are hordes of people running across just the other day, Trump, what was it, yesterday, tweeted out that thing that said there's a caravan coming across the country right now going to usurp again. And I'm going, where is this made up caravan? What the hell are you talking about?
I have a pop quiz. Pop quiz. Okay. So this is a survey having to do with how Americans estimate the size of certain minority groups. All right. So let's see.
Lord.
This is
Americans think that 21% of people in this country are transgender. 21%. What's the actual percentage? It's less than 1%.
Yes.
My favorite thing, because I wish it were true, they think that 30% of people in this country live in New York City. It's like less than.
Did you see what they think 3%. About immigration? How many millions they think that are coming across that?
But they also, in that same survey, they also think that like there's a huge, 40% of the population is Black, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Or 30.
41% of the population is Black. It's 12%.
It's 12.
How many percent eat cats and dogs? That's the other one.
It's just incredible.
But here's the thing. This is why, because the right is very good at repeating simple messages over and over and over again.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It matters how people
But I believe it because they said it and I keep saying it.
Over and over and over again. And that's the problem with the left, because it's a coalition and everyone can't get on message. And now sometimes that's not always good, right? But when you are trying to combat the other side, which is all they do, this is the byproduct of that.
By letting them frame the argument.
Letting them frame the argument, which is something that, like I said, people know. I come from that side. I know what we used to do and why. That's why I speak in plain language, why people consider me an effective communicator. Same thing with you, Mary. Same thing with you, Brian. Same thing with this side of things, because we speak like normal people.
Right.
And so that resonates with folks because it's easy to understand. We take difficult things and break it down so that people understand why it matters.
And
the
explain
other side,
the nuance. But
exactly.
That takes time.
And then inform, right? And then inform and give the background and context. So then it's not just, repeating it over and over again. You also understand why, and that's important. But it takes effort. The other side, they've got a 30-year head start on indoctrinating people with bullshit for simple terms, repeated over and over
45.
again. It's conditioned. Well, I'm going back to like the 90s, right? It did
I'm going
start.
back to Reagan.
It did start with that, but you didn't have this. You didn't have Fox News then.
Right.
They only had C-SPAN and talk radio, which was very effective. And then in the 90s, Newt Gingrich and those guys, they perfected that and used Fox News. Roger Ailes saw that, all of that. And then now we have what we have with the internet.
Fox News?
Yeah, it was Roger Ailes who gave us Fox News.
Ronald Reagan.
Well, yes, because of the fairness doctrine and all of that and going back. But, you know, here we are. So we have to, for the love of God, Democrats have got to learn how to get on message. Because you know when it started to work, when Democrats were all singing from the same chorus book? Project 2025.
Yeah.
Over the summer, when everybody was talking about it in one voice, people went, holy shit, what? What is this? It's going to do what? And that was actually having an impact, which is why the Trump administration, a Trump campaign, rebranded. And they said, okay, disavow. You don't know. You've never heard of it. Coffee Boy this. We don't know who that is. Who? I don't know who that is. What is this? I don't know. And the media failed because they let him get away with it. Instead of keeping the pressure on him.
We were in cahoots, complicit in it.
Of course. But instead of keeping the pressure on him and saying, well, wait a minute, what do you mean you don't know who these people are? This person worked for you. This person did this for you. This person's in your orbit now. Your vice president wrote the foreword to Project 2025. So how are you saying you don't know what this is? So wait, you said you never read it. You never heard of it. So that means that you're not engaged enough. So like, I mean, they didn't do that. They moved on to the next thing. And then what happened? So did Democrats. And they got scared. And then this is where we are now.
You know why that happened? And this is why he's going to be particularly dangerous in this administration. The reason why the media didn't push back, he didn't let anyone who would push back around him during the campaign. It was all his press conferences. Everything was only those that he liked and trusted. So he was able to craft that narrative, which is what he will do when he gets in the White House. And so, yeah, I blame us for being complicit in it because we bowed down and took it. And
okay, but hang on a second though. All right, we have this whole issue of access journalism, right? And access journalism has been a huge problem because in order to get access, you have to pull your punches and water things down or just report inaccurately. So the person allows you access. My question has for a long time has been, what do you need access to Donald Trump for? He's just going to lie to you. Like he didn't need to be speaking with, in his view,
access to him for.
No, they could have got
no, listen, because this you can talk with surrogates, but also Brian,
you can report on it without having access to him.
Brian,
you're right.
Can you please stop interrupting me?
I'm sorry. You're right.
That would be awesome. Thank you. Because look, this is all very difficult stuff and we're on the same page, but we all have our different perspectives here. I'm just trying to make a point that if you get access to Donald Trump, he's going to lie to you. If you challenge him, he's going to tell you you're stupid and you're a moron and it's an embarrassment that the outlet you work for has hired you, right? Mm-hmm. He's going to steamroll over you, or you're just going to accept everything he says is truth, which does nobody any good. What needed to happen that did not happen is that every press conference should have been fact-checked in real time.
Yes.
There should have been experts discussing, we had tons of experts discussing the legal stuff. Look where that got us. And I mean, that's not the fault of the legal experts. That's the fault of that the legal stuff went nowhere because of the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court. And, and then we never had serious professional discussions about his mental health, his psychological disorders, his potential dementia, et cetera, et cetera. We never had professional panels explaining what it meant that for 30 minutes you just stood on stage doing this to a Brian. I see you. I see you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You don't have to do that. I'm gonna get to you.
I'm just a bad habit.
Finishing my thought. Yes. This is not the press room.
It's Mr. President.
Well, I wish one of you two was president, but anyway, that's not
I wish you were.
Anyway, so we had a vacuum into which all of the misinformation and disinformation was allowed to spread, and that's the problem. I mean, It's not access to him. It's not the inability to ask him questions. It's not that he protected himself with friendly media. He's been doing that forever, right? And when you do see that he goes into, quote unquote hostile territory, it gets spun, it gets dropped out of the news cycle, it gets ignored, etc. Like the fact that he survived. I mean, you could say this about a billion things, but the one thing I had in mind is the Association for Black Journalists.
Oh my
How did he
God.
survive that?
I
Am I
know.
saying that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
National Association,
National Association
NABJ.
of Black
Who
Journalists.
Yeah,
hosted
yeah,
that?
yeah. Well, because
Yeah.
people don't care, because Black lives aren't as
Who
valuable,
hosted
so they
it?
don't
Who was
care.
the- who was
But
the-
it was
Let's just be
also like
honest
it was
about
just
that.
totally that is absolutely true too, which is
Yeah.
another horrific
You
reality.
can be a
This country
racist now, and it doesn't
still
matter.
has to deal with. You could be a racist, you could be a misogynist,
Yep.
you can be a thug, you can be a rapist, et cetera,
Yep.
et cetera.
Doesn't
All of that's going
You
to
can
get
be Secretary of
normalized.
State and president.
But
So-
but that has been a long process of softening the ground and moving the goalposts, right? Right,
Yep.
Brian?
Yeah. Well, the Society of Black Journalists, who was sitting on that panel, but Harris Faulkner, who is a Fox
Wow.
apologist, and I worked with her in
Yeah.
a long time ago in Kansas City. She's always been that way.
Oh,
Not
there's always one.
But there
Yes,
were a couple,
there-
I mean, a couple
but-
of the women on that panel did a good job.
yeah,
Yes.
but she enabled him. But back to your other point about access, there is, as a reporter, access. If you do your job right, access gains you something that is irreplaceable. But your attitude has to be right as a reporter. Access to those particular people gives you access to the people who work around him, and they get to know you and they get to trust you. And so when they have something, when they want to drop a dime on somebody, and all of them do. I have worked every administration since Reagan. I don't care how much they say they are for their guy. Someone's going to drop a dime. And that was one of the biggest problems. The first Trump administration was as porous as a sponge. They would come out and go, this guy's an idiot. And they would come, and that's because you had access to the White House. If they don't know you, you can't get that access easily. That's the plus side to access. The downside to access is when you sell your soul to get there, which is what most mainstream, I hate that term, most corporate media does today. And you saw it with Jeff Bezos, you saw it with the Los Angeles Times, you saw it with USA Today. They sold their impartiality and their independence to give obedience ahead of time. Thank you, Tim Snyder, for that term. Their obedience ahead of time to Donald Trump. And there is where that's where access takes an ugly turn. It is a double-edged sword as a reporter. I'm with you. I disagree with how we conduct ourselves to get access and what we do with it. But there was a time, Helen Thomas, Sam Donaldson, not that long ago, when the access was used for the greater good, and more importantly, the companies that owned those particular reporting institutions reacted in a responsible manner. But now, with 6 companies owning 90% of what you see, read, or hear, including all the movies, all the magazines, all the newspapers, it's all for one for all. It was George Carlin who said the rich don't have to have a conspiracy. They have like-minded ideals. And they're going to keep us fighting about, everything else, the color of our skin, our religion, our politics, while they keep taking away the money. And that's what Donald Trump is doing, destroying and pushing down and getting rid of the norms. And the media is complicit in it. Individual reporters may not be, but the companies are.
But there's something else there, though, Tara, too. In the past, Republican, I mean, you see this still happen in other countries, and it used to happen here, too. Republicans would, meet in good faith with what they considered, not friendly media, and they would answer the questions. And they would put themselves in uncomfortable situations because they felt they also had a responsibility. Like, all of that is gone.
Oh, it's gone. And that was because there was a certain amount of checks and balances when it came to elections, right? Republican senators, you have to get elected statewide. Now, the members of Congress, they could be a little bit more siloed with who they went to because of all the, of the gerrymandering, and 95% of incumbents get reelected. You don't have competitive races. But the senators, they would, because they have to win statewide. Now, because there is so much, there's so many opportunities to go to alternative media with podcasts and streaming and all of that, they don't necessarily have to do that anymore because Donald Trump has discredited all of the legacy media. That was one of the first things that he did when he started calling the media the enemy of the people and saying that media treats us unfairly and blah, blah, blah. You're taking out the credibility of the fourth estate. It's the media's job, in theory, to inform the public and be trusted voices. And when you don't have local media anymore, to Brian's point, a lot of this consolidation and the way that the profit-driven media is, you don't have local media, which was the most trusted media. Most people would say, oh, we don't trust the big ones, but we trust our local papers. Well, now those local papers don't have local reporters anymore.
Don't have local papers.
Right. You don't have local papers. They've either been gone. They're either online now, or they only have.
45% of the counties in this country do not have community news.
And there's
5%.
That's crazy. And that also prevents people from seeing what's happening with their local state and local governments. You don't have sunshine anymore, right? Shining on what's happening and people don't know. And that has correlated with more corruption, less democratic things, more extremists getting elected because people don't know what the hell's going on. They don't know where to turn. And then what ends up happening, they turn to the more entertainment stuff because that feels better. It's like a dopamine response. They go to Joe Rogan, they go to the Charlie Kirks, they go to these crazies that are feeding their worst instincts, and there's no balance. So that's how we get into this. And like the idea of Donald Trump, like lack of transparency, this whole thing with the transition and not having FBI background checks and not knowing who's funding this. I didn't realize how much money the government sets aside to help with the transition because we're used to this happening under our noses because it's never been a problem before until Trump. But like, I did a segment on MSNBC a couple days ago about who the hell is funding this? We don't know. It could be foreign sources. We remember what happened during the inauguration the first time. You had all this foreign money coming in because there was lack of oversight, really, with inauguration funds. It's the same thing with the transition. As soon as Trump's team signs those transition documents, then there is a process and there's oversight. And they don't want that because the money is coming from God knows where. We've got Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, the tech bros, the oligarchy that's surrounding Donald Trump, funding all of this so they can get what they want. You think that Vivek and Elon are trying to do this out of the goodness of wanting to reform government? No, they're doing it to line their own pockets and their friends. Crazy.
I want to show you another I want to show you a clip from from the letter that Senator Warren wrote to the GSA. It basically delaying by not entering into these memoranda of understanding with the Justice Department for FBI background checks on nominees, delaying critical vetting for national security positions. Wrong clip. See, this is what happens when Mercedes is in here and you put me in charge. What a mistake. Okay, so in her letter, Warren noted that the memorandum of understanding, she wrote this to the General Services Administration that oversees much of the transition process, that, MOUs are normally mundane agreements, which no previous president-elect has refused to sign. Mm-hmm. And again, last time around, Donald was still in the White House. So he was obstructing from that position. So, quote, the Trump team's unprecedented refusal to sign agreements with the outgoing administration threatens the American public by hamstringing incoming officials' ability to govern responsibly. The Trump transition has also refused to publish an ethics plan, increasing the risk of the incoming administration governing for the benefit of special interests rather than the American public, which gets to exactly what Tara's saying. Now, my question, Brian, Ringo, whomever, is this.
Yes.
And this is Donald, right? This is Musk. This is Ramaswamy.
Yes.
What are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
Nothing, because Democrats didn't do their due diligence. It should be against the law to waltz into the White House.
And what if it were?
Having fulfilled, seriously, it's just like, whatever. I can be
Well,
as
welcome
corrupt
home, right?
yeah.
Biden said welcome home, which I love Joe Biden, but like I could have done without that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Biden
we
is
all
going
could've.
to ruin his legacy because he didn't just say welcome home. He said we will do anything to
I
accommodate
know.
you.
I know. I
What?
can't.
These are fascists. You're going to do
Mhm.
anything to
criminals.
accommodate the
They're criminals.
destruction of American democracy. Then what, sir, was the point of you?
I know.
Sorry,
Well,
that's
and
how I'm
Mary, to
feeling
your
right now.
point, what if the Democrats had passed a law? Donald Trump, with his newfound strength from the Supreme Court, could simply issue a statement going, "Screw it, I don't have to do it."
It's an official act.
It's
No,
an official
listen,
act.
Brian, I understand that, but we have to try.
Don't roll
Yeah,
over.
I agree. I
We
agree.
have
I
to
don't
try.
disagree with you trying. I'm just saying, take a look at the long game, what he's playing, and it's quite and God, you were so both of you you hit a nail on the head that I think the Democrats have forgotten about. Keeping it simple, stupid. You know, the simple message. Who was the last one who did that really well? James Carville. It's
Mhm.
the economy, stupid.
Yeah,
4
Clinton.
words. And they punched it over and over and over again. And by the way, their people in their White House, the one difference, and to the point that both of you were making earlier, and I thought of it as you said, I think Tara and Mary, was you sat there during that administration, and I remember it was Joe Lockhart and Mike McCurry, two of the best press secretaries I ever worked with. They
Under
said,
Clinton.
"Brian, we look forward to the daily briefings because we not only inform you, but you inform us with your questions. We find out what is important to the American people and we adjust policy to that," which is why he was very effective as a president on both sides of the aisle. And that, to me, is something that's just been completely lost in these divisive times. And the fact that Donald Trump is now playing the game that he's playing, this isn't going to bring people together.
Well, you
It's
have to
going
have good
further
faith.
divide
You
them
have to
apart.
have good faith actors on both sides for that.
Well, yeah,
to
that's
work, right.
Oh,
Donald
come
Trump is
on.
MAGA's not operating in good faith, and
Well,
then the
he is.
Democrats being too establishment or nice about like, well, you know, we're going to abide by the norms. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like Joe Biden is a relic of a time that doesn't exist anymore. There needed to be more unconventional tactics to push back against this because the MAGAs exploited that. They recognized the weakness in the goodness. And so they exploited that. And they knew that if you overwhelm the system with the fire hose of fuckery, that the Democrats on the other side aren't going to be able to maneuver. Republicans know how to maneuver. They'll be like, oh, okay, you want to do that? You want to come with a right hook? We'll come with a left hook and an uppercut. Yeah. And it's like the Democrats go, wait a minute, we need a focus group, whether that works or not. You know what I mean? Like there's no time for that anymore. So I'm hoping that as we move forward, that there are enough people like us and this universe of I hate the word resistors because it has different meanings, but it's kind of this universe of resistors that will make it more difficult. Because if we just stand up and roll over, they are going to steamroll this and cement it over so that we can never recover. At least you have a fighting chance. I call it the army of Amazons, is what we're calling it inside the Lincoln Project, especially for women, because like we saw that the bro culture is really that this election was really about pitting the men against women. And we are on the losing side of this because our rights have already started to be taken away. That we need to have an army of Amazons out there that are saying, fuck you. You're not going to go down. You're going to have to go through us. At least we're going to fight. If we're going to lose, we're going to go down fighting. But we think that we can at least still put up an effort to fight this and make it harder for them to do it. So that's why, do not obey in advance. You're right. Thank you, Timothy Snyder. His book on tyranny with the first rule. How do you combat tyranny? We all need to start educating ourselves and arming ourselves with what those tactics are, because we've seen this happen in history before. This is not new. It's new for America at this level, but it's not new in history. And there are ways, we are on the precipice of whether we lose this completely or can recover from it or not. But I'm not ready to give up.
No, it's not an option. And no. I think this is another one of Snyder's rules. Keep a record. And I have on my desktop, November 6th, 2024, Average price of gasoline, $2.79. Stock market, 43,492. Annual inflation, 2.2%. That's very low, especially compared to global
It was
norms.
9.1 in 2021 as a result of
telling you, man,
Trump and
what a-
COVID, but
What
nobody
a
knew that.
con.
I
What a
know.
con. Unemployment, 4.1%. So those are our and those are the numbers I'm looking at and going to use as the baseline, because by doing things like saying he's going to implement a 25% tariff, there's a possibility that one thing Donald's trying to do is to, make the stock market take a dip on Biden's watch, but because of things Donald is saying. So November 6th, 2024, that's my baseline. And that's sort of where that's what we need to look back to. And I think that's kind of that's our main weapon's the wrong word, but our main tool at this point is just making sure that people know what is really going on and where we're going and how we got here, and never drop never let the narratives disappear. So for example, yes, Jack Smith, sadly, because he didn't have a choice, he dropped these cases, but he did it. And I always get them mixed up. I think he did it with prejudice, which means that the cases can without prejudice, which means that these cases can be reanimated, just that the New York case can be reanimated when and if Donald becomes a private citizen again. So, that's not nothing. That's not nothing.
Right.
So I guess
he should release the report. I think the report will
everything
come out
needs to be
some way.
released.
Yeah, and the thing about Jack Smith, these guys, Jack Smith and his team, they're heroes. Yep. Because they knew, you want to talk about all of us, what was at stake, just like us, the collective. But like the people that have the targets legit on the enemies list from Trump, Jack Smith and his entire team, and all the people who are trying to do the right thing by our Constitution and our democracy and the rule of law, right? All of these people are at great personal risk, did everything they possibly could up until the very end. And so Jack Smith, like some people are like, why did he do this? No, this is what he had to do. And like, if I were Jack Smith, I would seriously consider, like, how are you going to protect yourself? Because this is why Donald Trump wants to put these loyalists into these important roles so that they can do whatever he wants. That's why he wants Kash Patel, for God help us, to be the FBI director, or put him in a position where he doesn't have to be confirmed by the Senate, but he's still like in a deputy position where he can still do a lot of damage to a lot of people. We're going to start seeing that. You're going to start seeing like examples of, let's say, John Bolton. He may not be our favorite, but Bolton is actually under legit threat of assassination by the Iranians. He has Secret Service protection, highly unusual for people out of government to continue to have protective details. So does Mike, other than the president and vice president. And the vice president's only 6 months. So does Mike Pompeo and people from the other administration. He's got diplomatic security protection because of legit threats from foreign actors. You don't think Donald Trump's going to pull those protective details? That's as a courtesy by the president. So watch what they do. He doesn't have to march John Bolton or these folks out in front to a firing squad, which he's claimed that he'd like to do because he's a sick fuck. But they can do other things to make people's lives awful.
Investigations.
That's right.
Investigations.
That's right.
Dropping security. Making sure they can't get for example, Mark Zaid, who is a national security attorney, will lose his security clearance.
Right.
He won't be able to do his job. All of those are in the playbook, and all of them are in play, and all of them will be used. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump will leave no stone unturned in going after the people that he believes are detrimental to his well-being, the three of us here being included. I'm opening a mojito bar on a beach in Lisbon, Portugal.
Listen, I think it's important, though, just to pause for 1 second and make sure we underscore just how insane that is.
Yes.
I like, it's amazing to me how many people are like, oh yeah, like that's normal, that's fine, whatever. Right. These people are his enemies. No, this is America. You're allowed to speak in opposition to the people in power. It's called speaking truth to power. And powerful people are incredibly insulated. And for the rest of us who are not insulated by said power, we are supposed to be protected by the First Amendment. And it is absolutely antithetical to the American experiment for a sitting president to go after people who, by the way, pose no threat to him whatsoever, who have harmed him. Not the only person who harmed him is him by committing crimes for which some people tried to hold him accountable. So, okay, so this is our last Nerds before the holiday. Shockingly, we're going to take Thursday off. Although, just so everybody knows, I will be having a live show at 6:00 on Thursday called Please Pass the Mashed Potatoes. And for those of you who understand the double entendre, awesome. For those of you who don't, I'll fill you in on Thursday.
Yeah.
So join me
Read
for
your
that.
book.
That 6 p.m. Eastern. And it'll be on YouTube, so it'll be easy to find. And I'll remind you somehow beforehand. But dark times. So really quickly before we leave, I want both of you to let everybody know where to find you, and to what is one thing you're kind of hanging on to? I'll start with you, Brian.
I'm hanging on my sweet potato pie that I'm making for Thanksgiving. That's I'm dressed like this because my dog ate a squirrel, and my grandson,
and that requires a suit.
You're
going to a funeral.
My grandson demanded that we have a funeral for the squirrel. So we're having a funeral for the squirrel, and I'm hanging on to my grandson and my granddaughter, who was born with fewer rights today than her mother was 30 years ago. And I'm hanging on to the hope for them for the future, because I look into their eyes, and by God, I know the future is going to be better with them around. It's that line in Road Trip. It goes, I think I have to stick around. I think the human race is going to need me. I'm just here to make sure that my grandkids are there, because I have a feeling they're going to be needed. So You can catch me at the name of the book is called Free the Press. And Terry, I think you referred to it a little bit earlier about the local media, but I didn't pump it then, but I'll say it now. The name of the show is the name of the show is Reverse Shot. But I urge everyone, I'm going to take the wise tactic here, urge everyone to go and like Mary Trump Media, subscribe to Mary Trump Media, because we're working on, as he says, inshallah money. So you help us all, and you help us bring to you the type of voices that need to be heard, independent and honest. And as Tara said, plain speaking folks here. So please go to now, donate, give to Mary, give early, give often. Maybe we'll get together. Personally, I'd like us all to get together and buy MSNBC. I would love to run MSNBC.
Sounds like a plan.
Stop Elon Musk from trying to come in and buy MSNBC, which he's talking about doing, which God help us with there too. Well, I think to Brian's point, the bigger point here is to hold on to the things that bring you joy in your life. It's important to have balance, and it's important to know why you're still doing this, why you're still, why it's worth it to still speak out and inform yourself and resist, right? It's because of those things, whatever that is, because you want to preserve that. And you want that to be available to future generations. This is a fight that's bigger than us. And I want to believe that that we are not that selfish, that there are still people who are willing to do this, not only for our own protection, but for the future, and to make sure that we still have a country left. And that requires, sometimes you have to fight the battle more than once to win the war. And that's what we're doing now. We're still in the war. And so as you go into Thanksgiving, what do you hold on to? You hold on to those things. You hold on to the fact that despite what feels like it's hopeless, it's not, and until it is. And so let's do everything we can so that we don't ever get to that point. And yes, it's important to continue to support all of us. Same thing with us, Seneca Project. We operate based off the generosity and support of people and their donations to us. If you want us to stay in this fight, we have to have financial support. So we know it's hard. It sucks that that's the way it goes, but that's the way it is. None of us are independently wealthy. Elon Musk and the other side, they're pumping tens of millions of dollars into their causes. We need to make sure our side is just as well financed. And if it's not going to be the billionaires that are doing it, it's got to be a grassroots from the bottom up. And so we are appreciative of everyone who supported us, that supports Mary and Brian, because we cannot depend on the bigger, the bigger folks. They'll come around at some point on our side, but in the meantime, it's up to us.
When they see money in it.
Well, it's up to us as a community. We have to build community. And that's something, there is a community of people who are like-minded. And we can hold on hope of that, of continuing to build that community and fight back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brian, Tara, for spending the last Nerds before Thanksgiving with me. Thanks, of course, to everybody who's watching, all of our Twitter peeps who joined us today from the live stream over there. To everybody liking the video, subscribing to the channel. It means so much to us, to our donators. You have no idea how much we appreciate that. It helps us out tremendously. To our amazing moderators, to Mercedes for being a phenomenal producer. Have an amazing holiday, everybody. Again, I will be here 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time for Please Pass the Mashed Potatoes, damn it. And so in the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind, and we'll see you next week. Bye.